Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Advancing Consciousness Podcast. Today is episode 32, and we're going to look at technologies, systems, and spirituality are not stagnant and are constantly being upgraded. So stay tuned. So, in our natural state, and this is what we are establishing much more now, is the realization also in that state is that things are constantly evolving, constantly expanding, constantly upgrading, because nothing is stagnant. Our true core essence, even as sourceness itself, is not constant. We can look at it and say, well, something? Source is the field of creation, the field of all potentialities. And so it's true. Then they say, well, everything's been already discovered, invented, and we've already made all these realizations. All we're doing is living it through. That's not quite accurate at all, in fact. Because when we look at it, the very essence of the source essence, our core, not only of ourselves, but everything that exists, is not stagnant. It's constantly growing, constantly evolving, constantly becoming enlightened. It's just, that's the very nature of it. Right on its bare foundation, and everything that exists within that field and nothing is outside of that field is made up of the same stuff, has the same capacities and operating system. You can never ever stop it. It's not designed and never has been even considered to stop. It's like us saying we're never going to grow anymore. We're always going to be the same. That may be appealing for a very short time, but you'll notice that you get bored. You get to a point where you need to move forward and experience something else and create something else. And it's not even enough to say, well, I want to experience what somebody else experienced. You want to kind of experience something of your own making, of your own doing, that is always constantly growing forward in whatever ways it does. So with that understanding, with that in mind, then we see that things always, right from sourceness to spirit being us and creation, and everything else is always available. I shouldn't say available, always constantly expanding and growing and upgrading along the way. The upgrades are made by different experiences, different realization, different levels of play, different use of imagination, and so forth. Now, to understand our human experience, our original design was exactly that. When planet Earth was retooled 15,000 years ago and reseeded with these particular physicalities that we're using here, and of course, every part of that nature was designed to continue to upgrade, to grow. So even though it started off in organic 3D with an organic matrix, it was designed to continue to evolve, expand its consciousness, and upgrade the playground, upgrade the experience and its capacities to create. And planet Earth was originally designed to be able to go from third dimensional consciousness to all the way up to ninth dimensional consciousness and be able to stay in our form. And now when I say form, yeah, you may have several reincarnations and so forth, and whatever that may be. But at the same time, it was able to advance. And in that advancement, at this point in time, it would be able to go from third to fourth to fifth to sixth to seventh and so on to ninth. And that was kind of right true its design, and every part of it. And I won't get into the complete makeup because that's a long story in itself, and I have covered it in some of my workshops, and I've covered it in the Advancing Consciousness series a little bit more, and I will at some other point go even deeper with that. But at this time, we won't go down that path because it's not necessary. So how can I say, in understanding our nature, we were designed to evolve and so forth. Then some 5,000 years later, which was 10,000 years ago, this is when that inverted matrix was put in, and of course the artificial intelligence we call the ego, the moon was brought in, and all that stuff as a transmitter receiver, or in this case the transmitter, satellite type transmission, to maintain that inverted matrix. And then what ended up happening is that we went through a de-evolution process. Now that was a process, and what the process was about was to invert everything, so everything was backwards. So what did we do? We basically accessed less and less consciousness. We started to adopt everything in backwards. And of course, a lot of those changes changed our physicality, changed the sentient beings, changed how the planet would operate too. And the inverted matrix was applied that override or blocked the access to the organic consciousness, or the organic matrix, which carried the organic consciousness within it. Now we have to understand that all the organic matrix, and every planet has one. It actually is online. It's linked so that it actually learns from other planets, primarily the planets within our solar system, including our sun. And it's also learning and communicating with the experience and the consciousness of evolution and so forth within the galaxy, and specifically the quadrant of the galaxy that we're in, with very specific planets that are the most aligned. So when we went through this inverted whole experience, the upgrade actually, got stifled, and it didn't get stagnated. It actually just worked backwards. So it went from its organic state, an organic 3D, which is basically a realization that you are a spirit being, creator being, having a human, or being in a human body and relating with the human body, still having access to that, and seeing access that we create and we shape all our realities. We kind of lost that connection for a long period of time, in fact 10,000 years. And each and every incarnation that came here as multidimensional souls, combining with earthbound souls, which we call the human entity, and the bodies, that it continued to accentuate that state of being in the unconscious. So the reversing process that happened, it wasn't stagnated, but we were going backwards. So we were accessing less and less consciousness. We were limiting our capacities. We were limiting our true nature, how we could actually take energy just from being on the planet, not only energy from the planet, from the air, from the water, from the sun itself, without needing to eat, even though that we, had the opportunity to be able to enjoy our natural state, which was fruit, basically, so that we can have more of a sensational experience or sensorial experience, but at the same time have an intimate connection with the fruit and the offerings that fruit had, vibrationally and so forth. So that changed, and of course, access of our consciousness and seeing ourselves as one, which we originally did. And when we say seeing ourselves one, is seeing that each one of us is an aspect of ourselves, and each one have come here to play, to be their genuine, very specific self, but at the same time all having individual experiences that created the collective experience, which was still all in line with, constantly upgrading, growing, becoming experientially rich. Well, with the inverted matrix, we went to the point of creating accentuated separation, seeing ourselves all separate. We went from flourishing to survival. We went from having no fear, because we knew we were creator and designer of every aspect of it. You can turn on and turn off whatever, to the point where we became a victim to our environment, victim to other role players. We came to the point of, even believing there's a deity that we were a victim to, or in a sense, subject to, or that we needed to be controlled by, and so forth. And that separation was, if you're able and fit and strong, you'll be able to survive, and if not, you don't. If you need to sacrifice, you need to put a lot of effort and so forth to the survival, and really never get the opportunity for self-discovery, for growth, to become more experientially rich. So what happened is, instead of evolving and expanding the experiences, it actually continued to become more and more minimized and more limited, and more feeling more and more disempowered. Let's put it that way. So that was really what was going on for that 10,000 years. Of course, that started to change in 1987, and then 2013, basically into 2012, going into 2013, and then 2020, 2021. All of that has been accentuating forward to kind of, get rid of all the inverted matrix stuff, get rid of all of the other stuff, and then bring everything back online to the point where we realize that we're shaping our reality, and that we have a direct hand in creating, not only shaping our own personal reality, but our so-called smaller collective realities, being, possibly in the family dynamics and work environments, or wherever other environments we play in, community and all, country, and of course your race, your genders, and so forth. Those are all different cluster points, if you want to call it that. And with all of that coming into play, we started to realize that we are much more powerfully in shaping, and we're going through the reversal process of deprogramming ourselves, because we did receive a lot of programming, condition, and so forth to that inverted world. And so now, as we are evolving and upgrading ourselves, we're also upgrading our technologies. First of all, the use of the technologies, then the type of technologies, the response of the technologies, the role that it takes, and how it actually enhances us. But that doesn't stop it only in technologies, but it also does in the systems. Systems, you got to look at what the systems are. Systems that we've established as a way of life. This can be from the educational system, the monetary system, the health system, governmental systems, religious systems, and so forth. Those are different operating systems, and there's many more of that. And of course, there's subsystems and so forth, depending on where you are. You have one slightly different than the other, and so forth. So the systems itself now are coming more online, and are actually going to a stage where it actually supports us, where it becomes, how can I say it? A good way to put it. Well, let's say it aligns with us, and it's evolving with us. And so you will notice, especially what we've noticed lately, is that a lot of our systems are going through a challenging time. And it's really not that it's going through a challenging time. It looks very much so that way. And we also see that the systems are breaking down, the systems are becoming unstable, and even the role players within it, the systems are experiencing the same thing. And that's because it's being upgraded. And in a lot of cases, a lot of the systems that we have really do not serve what we are, who we are, and what we're becoming more aware of and more active in. So these systems, a lot of them are really obsolete. Others are, going through a major transition before it becomes obsolete completely 100%. But the changes, the upgrading, and the functionality is also changing. And so in realizing that, of course, it makes us feel a lot calmer, in the sense of not feeling that in one way or another that everything is falling apart, but also seeing it for really what's happening, and that is it's going through a transition, like we all are going through a transition. Our body's going through a transition. Our human entity's going through a transition. Our souls are going through a transition. Our mind's going through a transition. The planet's going through a transition. And everything that's out there in our whole playground is going through a transition. it's all upgrading. The stagnation, the slowing down, the reversal experience that it had is actually changed. So it's not reversing any longer, even though a lot of times it looks that way just because of the accentuated aspects of the intensities and the accentuated polarities and whatever else. But that's not really what's happening. It's just being illuminated so that we can actually see it and much more effectively take action and creating those changes so that it doesn't get left behind for a later date or actually feel compelled in one way or another to step up things and go in there and make those changes. So yes, technologies are upgrading, the systems are upgrading, but also our spirituality. And what I mean by spirituality, it's ourselves, basically our sense of spirit, sense of sourceness that we are. Because, as much as we are in a human body, we're not a human being. We're a spirit being. We are source itself in spirit essence, creating the human experience, playing in its own creation, and adopting and utilizing that experience, which entails what looks like a physicality in a physical world. But it's not. However, so that is upgrading right now and has been for some time too. And we are upgrading along the way. And as our spirit is upgrading and accessing not only more consciousness, but more of its core vibrational frequency and spectrum of light with upgraded codes, as we're going through that, of course, our spirituality and our bodies and everything is trying to keep up and create alignments with it. Of course, our body's going through the transition of from a high ratio of carbon and a lower ratio of a silicate and a very low ratio of crystal. The process that it's going through is reducing greatly the carbonic or carbon-based, which holds less light, less spectrum, less frequency, less codes, to silicate, and then the higher ratio as it's going through to crystal, which will hold. First of all, it's much more flexible. Second of all, it's able to hold a lot more information, a lot more spectrum of light, a lot more consciousness, and of course it can tune to the higher vibrational frequencies. So all of that, when you really look at it, is all coming together. So these are part of the changes that we're going. So when you look at technology, when you look at the systems, you look at spirituality and ourselves, which is the makeup of all of that. First of all, we participate with all of it, but we're all part of it, all of it. We're all going through an upgrade, because the thing is, the upgrade is the fact that we are in motion. We are creation in motion, experiencer in motion. And that motion doesn't stop. It cannot stop. It can pause to a certain degree, which looks like almost like you stopped, but that's not correct, because you cannot ever stop it. You can slow it right down. But with everything that we're experiencing, the bursts that we're getting and so forth, it's really unjamming us in a way. It's actually loosening up and stimulating further movement, more progressive movement, rather than the very minuscule slow movement that we had for, say, 10,000 years. This is all part and parcel because we are choosing the upgrade, or choosing to go through this process right now to advance us in a powerful way, to create new alignments, and to, like I said, you're aligning with our solar system. First of all, aligning with our planet, our solar system, our galaxy, our universe. And that's the thing. So our general makeup and everything that exists, is nothing of it is constant. And it's always upgrading. It's always expanding. It's always increasing capacities. And the very essence of ourselves flourishes best in that state. This is why we get restless. We want to always continue to move forward. We always want to continue to grow and expand and reach new levels. Even the whole idea of competition, well, competition is kind of a skewed way of experiencing things. The true state of what we are experiencing is wanting to see what more we can do, how much further we can expand and extend our human experience in what we call form, but also in our spiritual state. Looking at what more can I create? What else can I plug into my creation? How could I enhance the creation? How can I enhance my experience within it? They're all part and parcel. They're all working together in that respect. And because it's a natural state, you can't stop it. And this is why you have felt this compelling force within yourself to continue to experience and grow and so forth. Even though it seemed much more difficult at one point, but now it's being stimulated so powerfully for us that just staying stagnant is becoming much more uncomfortable. It's not about the movement. Now, of course, yes, the ego would like to throw in the fear of the unknown and, the paralyzation and so forth, and using the lower energies to kind of accentuate certain states of being. But, as much as that may have a certain level of effect for many more people, it's not affecting them that much anymore, and some not affecting them at all. And that's what we're doing. We're going to a point where it does not affect you. It doesn't control you. It doesn't become part of your experience any longer. Because you have to understand, all of that makeup was done when the inverted matrix was pretty well active. And also, not only the inverted matrix, but we're also talking about the inverted 3D, 2D state of being, that sort of devolved state. But that was the operating system that supported that actually was to bring us to that point. And one day I will cover more details, some of those factors about, the ego, the AI, and so forth, and how it actually works, and how it came about, the reason behind it, and so forth. Even though I've alluded to it in this conversation and other conversation or other episodes, but I also elaborated in some of the episodes in the Advancing Consciousness series, which is also available, which are basically lesson format in a sense. They are much longer, of course, and they go in more details, and there's a lot more offered there in that regards. But this is a powerful stimulation, being the podcast. And we will have more, and we'll continue to put out the content on a fairly regular basis. And we will also have interviews and so forth. So, anyways, that's it. Technologies, systems, and spirituality are not stagnant. They're constantly upgrading. And because that is our nature, and that's what we do, that is our true state, to keep ourselves in an active, coherent, or not coherent, but in alignment state within yourself. Okay, great. So you will notice in the description, if you check it out, we have several links. One link to join the newsletter or the community, so that you will get notified different times when things come up. We don't bombard your email. We also have a link to PayPal to support us financially as we continue to put this content in. Of course, we rely on your. We are not monetized on any of the platforms at this point in time, and haven't been. And with all the craziness and the censorship and so forth, that becomes a little bit of a challenge anyways. And we are not doing anything else in generating resources. We're putting all our focus to create content, workshops, you name it, to support everyone as we're going through this powerful process. And then you may want to check out the Advancing Consciousness series, and I'll put a link for that too in the description. And then the final link is to our page where we have all the different workshops which are available in video and audio format, and some in written format too, that you can get to support you along the way. So until the next episode, go out and play and have a blast. So thanks for coming together.